Imagine pulling up in your brand new luxury car, feeling proud and confident, only to have it all taken away by a cop who abuses his power. That's exactly what happened to Mia, a young black woman just trying to enjoy her day. Out of nowhere, the officer pulls her over, eyes locked on the sleek, shining vehicle. His tone, condescending, his attitude, completely out of line. Before she can even process what's happening, he takes the keys and drives off like he owns it. But karma has a way of catching up fast. Just 5 minutes later, that same cop is on the side of the road, face pale, heart racing, and he's begging for mercy. What could possibly have gone so wrong in such a short time? Stick around to see how this jaw-dropping story unfolds. You won't believe the twist coming next. As Mia stood on the sidewalk, stunned and helpless, the officer sped off in her car without so much as a second glance. Her heart raced. How could this even be happening? She had all her paperwork in order, and there was no reason for her car to be taken. Bystanders watched in disbelief, some pulling out their phones to capture the chaos. Mia's mind was spinning. Should she call the police on a police officer? The irony was almost laughable. But there was no time to dwell on the madness, because just a few miles down the road, something strange was unfolding. The officer's smug expression was gone, replaced by panic. He frantically tried to steer the car, but it was clear something was seriously wrong. Horns blared around him as traffic came to a halt. What had gone so terribly wrong? Mia had no idea, but she was about to find out. Mia's hands shook as she dialed 911, her voice firm despite the chaos swirling inside her. "A cop just took my car," she told the dispatcher, her words sharp with disbelief. There was a long pause on the other end, almost as if the operator wasn't sure how to respond. "We'll send someone," the dispatcher finally said, but Mia wasn't sure she could wait. She needed answers now. Meanwhile, on the highway, the officer's situation was spiraling out of control. Drivers shouted and honked as the stolen luxury car swerved erratically, nearly clipping other vehicles. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he gripped the wheel, but nothing seemed to work. The sleek car that once commanded the road had become a ticking time bomb in his hands. Back on the street, Mia's frustration turned to curiosity. Why had the car malfunctioned like that? Something didn't add up. And then it hit her. There was one feature about the car she hadn't mentioned. Mia's heart raced as she pieced it together, the car's security system. Her luxury ride came with advanced anti-theft technology, and if it detected unauthorized access, it could shut down completely, even lock the driver inside. She hadn't thought much of it when the dealer explained the feature, but now it all made sense. The cop had no idea he was trapped in a mechanical nightmare of his own making. On the highway, the officer's panic was palpable. The dashboard flashed red with error messages, and the steering wheel refused to budge. He slammed on the brakes, but the car wouldn't respond. Traffic piled up behind him as horns blared louder. Desperate, he fumbled for his radio, voice cracking as he called for backup. "This is Officer Daniels. I'm in serious trouble here." Mia, standing on the side of the road, saw flashing police lights in the distance. Her instincts told her things were about to explode, and not in a good way. Mia's eyes stayed glued to the chaos on the highway. She could see Officer Daniels now, frantically waving his arms from inside her locked car. The flashing lights from approaching police cruisers reflected off the windows, but they couldn't get to him fast enough. She wasn't sure whether to be furious or worried. Then, something caught her attention. A sleek black SUV creeping through the traffic a few lanes over. The windows were tinted dark, and its movements were too deliberate, almost as if it was tracking the scene. Her stomach clenched with unease. Before she could process it, the SUV accelerated, cutting sharply across the lanes toward her car. The crowd of bystanders gasped, some stepping back in alarm. Mia's pulse spiked. Was this a rescue attempt, or something more dangerous? The tension in the air was thick, and every second felt like an eternity. Whatever was about to happen, it was far from over. The SUV screeched to a stop inches from Mia's car. Doors flew open, and two men in plain clothes jumped out. Mia's heart pounded. Who were they? One of the men flashed a badge, yelling for bystanders to back up. "We're federal agents," he shouted. Without wasting a second, they rushed toward Officer Daniels, who was still frantically trying to escape the locked car. The officer's face was pale, drenched in sweat as he mouthed desperate pleas through the window. Mia watched in stunned silence as the agents overrode the car's security system and yanked open the door. To everyone's shock, instead of reprimanding Daniels, they slapped handcuffs on him. "Officer Daniels, you're under arrest," one agent said firmly. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Mia's confusion deepened. What was going on? The agent turned to Mia. "We've been tracking this officer for corruption and vehicle thefts," he explained. "And thanks to your car's security system, we finally caught him in the act." Mia's disbelief melted into relief and a bit of satisfaction. The very feature meant to protect her car had become the perfect trap. As the officers hauled Daniels away, Mia stood tall, knowing justice had finally been served. As the chaos settled, Mia finally exhaled. What had started as a nightmare ended with justice served right in front of her eyes. The crowd began dispersing, murmuring about the unbelievable turn of events. One of the agents approached her with a reassuring smile. "Thank you for staying calm through all this," he said. "That security system was a game changer. We couldn't have asked for a better setup to catch him red-handed." Mia glanced at her car, now back under her control, and felt a surge of pride. Technology might have caused chaos for the corrupt officer, but it had protected her in the end. As she slid back into the driver's seat, she couldn't help but smile. Life had thrown her a wild curveball, but she'd come out stronger. As she drove off, she knew one thing for sure. Sometimes, karma just needs a little help from smart engineering.